Good morning. It's been about 2 weeks since my last video, and I just lots happened. I just wanted to do a quick follow up. Last night and the night before that, we've had the Democratic Party holding their debates, and in my last video, I talked about investing as if Satan ruled the world, because Satan does, and I talked about how the globalist politicians want to give away everything to illegal immigrants, and the Democratic debates were a perfect example of that, of how politicians can become super wealthy by being politicians, by making backdoor agreements with other nations where illegal immigrants can come through, and then they get paid, they get a kickback for that, or they have a business that benefits from illegal immigration where they don't have to pay employees as much or pay taxes, and do withholdings. And you saw it because the Democrats started speaking Spanish. Of all the insults to the United States citizens, that here they're running to be the president of the United States, and then they're going to go speak Spanish. And of all the insults to the other immigrants, not just the legal ones, all the other illegal ones as well, who may not be coming from Spanish-speaking countries. The Democrats are just pandering to the Spanish-speaking countries. So, craziness. But that's aside the fact. Quick update on Iran. Iran has cut diplomatic ties with the U.S. I don't see Iran going to war with us. They may rattle the sabers and get pretty close to it. They may flex muscle by, flying ships near our ships, or, putting their little gunboats by our naval vessels. But I don't see a war happening. And if they do attack us, I don't see Trump responding right away. I just don't see a war going on. It's basically the government of Iran versus the government of the United States, because the people of Iran are gentle. They love Americans. They do not support the regime overall, but they're frightened of the regime because the regime is very oppressive. And the people of the United States are gentle. Yeah, we fight each other in protests and stuff, but overall, we don't like war. None of us. There are very, very few of us that do, and usually the ones who do like war are the ones who benefit from disaster, like higher oil prices, or trade tariffs, or issues like that. Anything that affects globalism coming into the United States and they benefit from it, then they'll support the war. But most people don't. They want everyone to just leave them alone. They want to be able to make money, feed their family, go out with their family, spend time with their family, and then that's it. Or to be, if they have no family, they just want to be super successful, not have to pay too much tax to the government so that they can, accrue wealth and, achieve their goals. But, globalism goes against all that. So Democrats are just spitting in the face of everybody, and they're showing themselves to be the true racists that they always have been, but they've successfully convinced people that Republicans are the racists. Yet when you look back in history and you look at all the voting records of the Democrats, they didn't vote to support civil rights. They didn't vote to free slaves. In fact, they wanted to take guns away from the slave population to keep them stupid, uneducated, and disarmed. And guess what? That's the same policy of the Democrats today. So nothing has changed. Don't let them lie to you that the switch has happened, that the racists have come over to the Republican Party. That may be somewhat true. There may have been some racists that have gotten into the party. You can't keep 100% of the bad guys out. They're always going to get some bad apples. But overall, the Republican Party is the better party, the protectorate of civil rights and constitutional rights, which are basically the same thing. And the Democrats just push for agendas that seem noble at the time, but what they're really doing is they're designed to break down the Constitution, because Democrats don't view the United States as a democracy. As a republic. They view it as a democracy. And in order to have it be a democracy, they have to tear down the rule of law, because the rule of law is what makes us a constitutional republic. The Constitution is law. It's supreme law. And so as a law republic, a law-abiding republic, we do not abide by popular votes and mob rule as democracies do. You look at all the democracies around the world, they're a mess. They're a big mess because the mob rules. If you have more people that support something over you, they win. You have no protection as a minority or as a smaller number of people, right? In the United States, we have protection against larger groups abusing us. Yes, we do have elections and voting where majority of the people can choose what they want, but it's a representative proportion of the people. You can't just have a state like California, which has, let's say, I don't know the exact population of California because I haven't checked on the statistics, but let's just say there are, 20 million people in California. All right. And Rhode Island only has, 5 million people, right? Rhode Island will still get the same proportional representation in their vote during a federal election as California. And California wouldn't have any particular advantage over Rhode Island, even though they're smaller. And this is the whole concept of a constitutional republic, to protect minorities, which is what Democrats have claimed they've always wanted to do, but yet they oppress minorities instead. They end up looking for popular vote, mob rule, lynch mobs, right? They want the greater group of people to rule supreme. So these are the things that we're facing with the elections. Okay, I went a little bit over what I just wanted to do updates on that stuff. But in actuality, let me cover a couple of more updates. Last time I talked about China having problems because of the tariffs that Trump has put on them, because China clamps on their currency to ours. And the Fed raised interest rates, made our currency appreciate in value, so it makes the yuan appreciate in value as well, since they're pegged to us. And that makes it harder for people to buy from China, because when the yuan appreciates in price, people from around the world have to get yuan in order to buy stuff. And if let's say you're in France and you're using the euro and the yuan appreciates, it makes you spend more euros in order to buy yuan before you can actually use the yuan, RMB, to purchase Chinese goods, because you can't use euro to buy Chinese goods from China. They just don't use euro in China. So you have to do currency exchange. You all know that when you travel, you have to change your currency into the domestic currency where you're traveling to. You can't just use your currency there. Same goes for international global trade. So the Fed, excuse me, I caught a little cold again because the weather's been changing so dramatically in California. We have it super hot, and then all of a sudden it rains and goes super hot again. Anyway, so the Fed raises interest rates. Raising interest rates makes it more expensive to borrow dollars, and so people will want to demand dollars more. It makes the value of the dollar go up. And when China's currency is pegged to it, the value of their currency goes up as well. And domestically, you may not feel anything that much, but internationally, you will feel it. There will become a switch in the trade that goes on. So foreigners will not buy your domestic products as much. But if you want to buy foreign products, your currency is now more powerful. You can acquire things more. But again, it tends to cause industry and commerce to slow down when interest rates are raised and currencies appreciate in value. So China has had a bank that has a lot of derivatives, which are the bad assets on steroids, has had that bank go under, and China's had to quietly bail it out because it creates a liquidity crisis again. It implodes their currency. It makes it more expensive and less availability of the currency, so that people cannot get the currency. And China's had to dump a bunch of yuan into their markets in order to keep their markets afloat. So the tariffs are really causing a big one on China. And just like I said last time in my last video, that's what the tariffs were meant to do. It's meant to hurt China, and it's hurting them. So Trump is actually at the G20 coming up, and he's meeting with Putin and Japan's prime minister, and he's probably going to meet with with Xi Jinping and a bunch of other people around the world. He's met with the Indian prime minister. So he's setting the world straight right now. And the U.S. is probably going to hurt a little bit. We're seeing the Iran incident has kind of boiled over, so oil has come back a little bit. Bitcoin has dropped again, but again, I consider that a healthy correction, because I want you to look at what this is. Well, basically the topic I wanted to go over today, and I should probably start to get into that right now, because I did a little bit too much on updating, but I thought it was important enough to cover it. But let's look at the differences between gold and Bitcoin and the dollar. Fiat currency, I should say. Fiat currency is centralized, okay? What does that mean? It means that you have to go to a single entity in order to get your dollar, right? Because who makes it? The government, right? Technically the Federal Reserve, right? Federal Reserve prints dollars. They are the centralized authority over the US dollar. All right, so is gold centralized? I say gold is not centralized, but it's not decentralized either. Not like it used to be. Gold used to be where, you could freely trade it. It was not controlled by any bank. In fact, it's a commodity, so it has to be mined and produced before you actually have gold. So that means the supply of gold is limited by how much they can produce. And therefore, when the dollar used to be backed by gold, the dollar was also limited in its supply. Currently, the dollar is not backed by anything other than the promise to pay that, you'll have value there, and the belief that everyone trusts the government or the Federal Reserve to maintain the value of the US dollar. So basically, the US dollar is just an idea. And gold, again, is limited by its supply. So when, let's say, the price of gold goes up in price, there's more incentive as a miner or a person who produces gold to make more gold, because now it costs more to buy it. So as a seller or a producer, you want to produce more gold for a higher price, and that increases the supply of gold, and eventually the price goes down because you have gold liquidity. You have availability of gold. All right? But again, you are limited by how much is produced. So this is what traditionally has helped fiat currencies, which were at one time gold-backed currencies or commodity-backed currencies, to maintain value, right? Otherwise, when they're not tied to anything, you can you're basically limited to the amount of paper you can print. But at this point, the dollar has become not just a physical fiat currency, it is a digital one. So you don't even need to put dollars on paper anymore. You can just put them in a computer as a program, ones and zeros, and as long as the computer shows you have $1 million, you have $1 million. You don't have to have 1 million individual paper bills to show that you have $1 million. And so the dollar is a digital fiat currency. Now, where does Bitcoin come in? Bitcoin is a little bit of a combination of both, okay? Bitcoin but it's not centralized that we know of, right? Some guy named Satoshi Nakamoto, which could be an alias, most likely is an alias, is a mysterious person or persons, an entity that we don't know, created Bitcoin and remained anonymous, and they limited the supply of Bitcoin to 21 million Bitcoin. period. That's it. No more. This is where Bitcoin is a better hold of value than gold, right? Because gold, again, when the price of gold goes up to, let's say gold goes up to $10,000 an ounce. That's a hypothetical, hasn't done that yet, but we think it could go there. It makes miners go, oh my gosh, I want to mine more gold and produce it so I could sell that gold. It may cost me $1,500, $1,500 to produce the gold, and I can sell it now for $10,000. I'm going to make me a good $8,500 profit, right, per ounce of gold. So I'm going to produce it. And so the miners will all ramp up, and there are multiple mining companies, not just one, right? And they don't all work together. They're actually in competition with each other. So they will ramp up production of as much gold as possible at the current cost of $1,500 an ounce, hypothetically, so that they can make that profit. And that, by flooding the world with the supply of gold, it brings the price down because now there's liquidity. There's enough gold to meet the demand of people who want to buy it. Bitcoin, however, no matter what goes on, the price could go to $100,000 a Bitcoin, $100,000 a Bitcoin, but there will still always be only 21 million Bitcoin ever produced. And with the halving, there's a halving coming up. A halving is coming up, where traditionally how Bitcoin is produced is, we say produced, but it's really verified through transaction processing. So let's say a buyer and a seller want to buy and sell to each other. You have a computer that comes up in the middle and processes that transaction. And in that processing, the owner of that computer generates Bitcoin in a process called mining, right? Haha, ta-da! So Bitcoin mining is not the same as gold mining. Gold mining, you actually have to make a physical product. And no one else really benefits from that except you, based upon how much it costs you to do that. Bitcoin, however, is mined by someone verifying, acting like an escrow company between a buyer and a seller in a transaction. So by their creating the transaction process, you're distributing the computing power, the energy. Instead of having it in a central location, anyone around the world could do this. So it's decentralized. No one controls the production of Bitcoin single-handedly. And currently, I believe you're rewarded 12 Bitcoin for mining, right? Mining transactions. And after the halving, it's going to be 6.5. So in other words, it gets more expensive to mine and less lucrative to mine. In the end, miners will stop mining it. They're just going to stop. It's going to be pointless, except for those who have no cost for producing Bitcoin, for mining, right? So, and there are some, because of the energy costs. It takes energy to run your computer. So if someone's using your computer for processing, you still have to pay your electric bill. So it costs you something. Now, if you're in a country where your energy is free, you've gone to like Iceland and you're using geothermal plus solar, and your servers are inside of a frozen cave where you don't need to pay for the electricity for air conditioning to keep the units cold, and your computers can just keep running and running and running, you're virtually zero cost to mine. And so you'll keep mining, but other people will not be able to if they have to pay for electricity and all that stuff. So the halving is going to occur. It's going to be less rewards, so you're going to have fewer miners, and you're also going to have, to the point where what I believe is going to happen is we have centralized exchanges that will eventually shut down or will steal your money and leave. So Bitcoin is a little different. If you lose your keys to your wallets, you lose your storage information, you lost all your Bitcoin. If you transfer your Bitcoin somewhere, the wrong address, you lose that Bitcoin. So not only is it getting harder and harder to produce, and you're producing less, those who are not good at keeping track of their assets and their passwords and all that stuff, they're losing Bitcoin forever, to be unable to be recovered. And therefore, whoever owns a supply of Bitcoin, their Bitcoin becomes more valuable. So Bitcoin is a better store of value, even though it's just a concept, it's just an idea. And as long as you have internet, Bitcoin will be very valuable, because there are advantages to it when it comes to transferring or paying for things internationally. Gold is very difficult to transfer. If I want to buy something in Africa, I would have to ship my gold to Africa to the seller in order to make the transaction occur, or have some kind of contract where the ownership changes hands. It's very difficult to do purchasing with gold and silver and all that stuff. I still love gold and silver, but not as much as I love the concept of Bitcoin, which is a digital currency that's decentralized, cannot be created by a government, is no one else's responsibility and liability, and ultimately it is a better store of value. And as long as you have the internet, you can do any transaction around the world. Now, the internet is key. If there's a war, there's the risk. There's a war, somebody cuts the internet lines, we lose all internet, there's an EMP blast, everyone loses control of their computers, and we go back into the dark ages, and there's no chance of us ever getting the computers back up in time of our lifetime for us to survive. We would go back to a gold and silver issue there, and it's good to have both. This is not financial advice. I'm just giving you education based on my understanding of how things work. You can go further educate yourself, and it benefits me because if you want to donate to me, I have links below with addresses to where you can send me crypto. You can support me by changing or spreading the word of what I'm teaching. You support me also by learning what I'm teaching and then educating yourself, and then going into the markets and stabilizing the markets, because educated investors and speculators make markets more stable than uneducated risk takers who just jump into a market because everybody else is, and they create the big volatile swings that I just hate to see as an investor and a speculator. So you would stabilize the market by being educated, and so that's how I benefit again. So ultimately, what I'm saying to you is I don't need to charge for my advice, and my advice is not financial advice for you to take and try to make money or lose money. If you lose money and you try to sue me, that was your responsibility. It was your choice to do it, not my choice. And I didn't force you. I didn't put a gun to your head. I didn't put a knife to your head, or a knife to your throat, anything like that. You chose to do that yourself, and you lost money. Don't blame me, right? I'm just giving you an explanation of the way I see Bitcoin, and I see gold, and I see all that. So anyway, Bitcoin to me is a very good investment. The risks you have, though, is if you're on an exchange and you're trading it, your Bitcoin is at risk. It will always be at risk because it's centralized. Somebody controls it, the exchange. And I don't recommend you trade it. It puts it at risk for hackers also. Hackers can break into the exchange and steal your Bitcoin. Now, you must have a wallet. The exchange has a wallet that holds your Bitcoin, but that's a hot wallet. I recommend you getting a cold storage wallet, which basically means it's not connected to the internet until you try to transfer funds to it from the internet. Then once it's on that storage, you can disconnect it to the internet and you're good. Now, I'm experimenting with a form of cold storage wallet. When I get more familiar with it, I'm going to start doing a product review on it. And I would hope that you would support me there also, because I'm going to become an affiliate of it, because I think it's a genius cryptocurrency storage solution for you, where it's not connected to the internet at all, ever. It's basically it's genius, and you'll see soon when I become an affiliate, and I start putting the product online so that you can see how it works. I have other forms of cold storage. I have a Ledger Nano X and a Ledger Nano S, which I love, but they're clunky and they're a lot more difficult to use than this new storage device that I see, which currently I believe is the best one on the market. And and the other thing is they're at risk because you have to plug them into your computer and into the internet in order to transfer your funds, and that puts you at risk of hackers and somebody, for a split second being able to get on your wallet, your cold store wallet, if you don't protect your private keys, or you forget you let your pass words get out. I mean, to me, the new wallet is much, much better. So anyway, I'm going to get into that. But the way I see it at this point is I don't recommend trading. So the best thing you can do is purchase your Bitcoin, however you do it. If you do it on a centralized exchange, that's fine. Just transfer it off of the exchange immediately onto your cold storage wallet, whatever wallet you have at this point, and hold. So on days like this, when you see Bitcoin dropping, if you believe what I believe, that Bitcoin is going to continue higher and continue increasing in value and importance around the world and usability, you will buy on this dip and you will hold until the next dip where you can buy more. You will not sell because the whole issue of fiat currency, what are you going to sell to? You're going to sell to dollars and have your value taken away by a central bank that decides to print more. Those are the things to decide and to think about when you're investing in this world today. So anyway, that was my message. It took a little bit long. I'm excited about what's been happening with Bitcoin and Litecoin and all that. I don't see an altcoin rally coming soon because the altcoins have been spoiled since the last rally. There are too many scam artists out there, and they just screwed everybody. And I don't see the general public getting into the markets yet. I see mostly institutional money. So the general public will get in when they start to panic because Bitcoin is at $30,000 a Bitcoin, and they're like, I should have gotten in. I could have been rich and paid all my bills and bought my house outright and all this stuff. So they're gonna get FOMO'd, or fear of missing out. They're let their fear kick in, and they'll buy in at the highs. And this is when I believe the exchanges will steal their money. The hackers will steal their money. The government will clamp down and prevent you from buying more Bitcoin or altcoins. I don't believe an altcoin rally is going to come till Bitcoin gets to astronomical levels. And then people are going to start looking for alternatives to Bitcoin because it'll be too expensive for them to buy. That's when your altcoin rally is going to occur. So buy on the dips and hold. That's not financial advice. It's what I do. I buy and I hold forever. And it's fared me very well. And I take a portion of my paycheck every time it comes in, and I buy more. And I hodl